much for joining. And before I give it to you, I would like to introduce you because you were supposed to join us a few months ago, but that's the divine drama plan. It didn't happen. So let me introduce all our participants about you. We're joining from the land of Switzerland. And Sister Valeriane Bernard is a meditation teacher. And actually, it's quite amazing that she's helped establishing centers, not only in Switzerland, where she belongs to, but also in Costa Rica, Chile, France, and Washington, D.C. And let me tell you, all of us know that Switzerland is famous for Geneva. So she's one of our representatives at the United Nations in Geneva since 2005. And she's also one of the team members within the climate change conferences since 2009. And since 1992, she has been involved in this ecological movement, whereby raising the public awareness about the impact of our relationship with the self and the environment, trying to achieve those sustainable goals which we have of the United Nations. And lastly, a very important thing, she has been producing various radio programs on the theme of culture of peace and the effects of spiritual awareness. And also, I must say that she's created many meditation commentaries on serving nature and being in harmony with nature. And before I pass it on to her, I always, as always, I do a poem. So let's greet Sister Valeriane also with a poem. So she, being instrumental for serving the soil of Switzerland, has made the picturesque Alps into a spiritual fertile land. All the tough obstacles she is able to withstand because she is the Almighty Supreme's right hand. Using the divine's knowledge as a mighty wand, she is able to create there a local spiritual band. She helps convert souls into precious stones from being simple sand. That's because she's kept the divine power by her side as a stand. And finally, she's one of the finest jewels, who's indeed very, very grand, because serving nature meditations are her signature brand, which I'm sure all of us will explore that today. And thank you so much for joining in, and the stage is all yours.
Can you hear me properly?
Oh, yes, you are perfectly audible here. Thanks.
Good. So thank you so much for this very beautiful, unique introduction. For your poem is a joy. I'm actually talking to you from the land of France today, which is neighbor to Switzerland. So I do service in both areas. And thanks for this very good theme also of guidance. I think it's been a really great honor and pleasure to explore this topic. So what I asked myself in order to talk to all of you is, what is it that guides us in life? Because I think that the process of being guided and understanding what's guiding us is very relevant, because the more we know what guides us, we can also choose to be guided differently. So I think that the importance of what is guiding us is the training we've had by our families, the training we've had with the people who are walking the path with us, and of course the society which we are living in. And you might say also that these three things have left values that are important for you. And so these values are how you have the tendency to guide your life. And I think it's very important to recognize this, because this is so ingrained in the soul, in the being that we are, in the awareness, that unless we recognize the things that are still guiding us and that have been guiding us, we won't be able to change these things. And some of these could be very good, and I can choose to go on with them. But maybe when I start understanding myself spiritually, suddenly I can see the difference between what is a limited understanding and what would be a spiritual understanding. So we'll come back to this a bit later on. Then I thought what's important to recognize is that each one of us has got some very deep principles and inner rules that one wants to live by. For instance, honesty or charity or generosity. You know, this is like not only a value, but it's a guiding principle in my life, that this is how I want to leave it. And so these principles and values have a tendency to guide us in our choices, in the way we do our profession, in the way we speak to others. Then a very important thing is education, because a person that has got an education of being a lawyer or being a chemist or being a cook will have a very different type of creativity, understanding, and practice that will be important to this person. So if we want to help people who are not very inclined spiritually, we can also help them by pointing out these three things. Then one thing that guides us that we might not always want to be guided by is the company we keep. Because at the level of thoughts, when, for instance, you spend a lot of time on TV, or you spend a lot of time with certain people, or you expose yourself to the news, or whether you are exposing yourself to a certain kind of sport, what you do is that you start processing your thoughts in that way. And then this process, this pattern, is something that you're going to be reproducing, and that is going to be also influencing you. So it will kind of guide you, and maybe realizing this makes you aware of the importance of paying attention, for instance. Then I think one that is very, very subtle and very important is that our own company is also guiding us. So this means that we create certain kind of thoughts, we create certain kind of feelings and certain kind of emotions. And this is going to color the way I am and the way I react and the way I act and the way I feel. So it is so important to see within myself which kind of company do I keep. So I'll give you an example. Some people have a tendency to be very too judgmental towards their own self, and maybe they always feel guilty, or maybe they always feel less than others. So this kind of thought pattern is going to have an influence, and if I don't pay attention, I reproduce this kind of inner company I keep to myself. Then also one important thing I find is that my own karma also guides me. You know, if even simple actions, like for instance, if I'm a cook, then I like cooking, and I will always kind of start thinking ahead. So, what is it I want to cook? What is it people are going to eat tonight? What is it I need to buy? Do I have enough flour? Do I have, so the kind of karma that you're doing also keeps you as a guide for your own thoughts and your own life. And I'm taking the example of cooking because it's a daily task to cook and to eat. But you can imagine that also if you have the habit of um, of writing, your thoughts will be going in that direction, etc. And then also your own, what we call in our spiritual knowledge, our own sanskars also have a kind of a very subtle company that keep on and on and on guiding us. So, for instance, if I have the sanskar of complaining, then this sanskar is going to start acting even without me wanting to, because complaining is not a pleasant experience. But the people who have the tendency to complain are very often finding themselves in a position of complaining again and again and always looking for something to complain about. If you tell them, they might not be aware of it, so they might not even recognize it. But I think these 10 things I've just mentioned now to you are very relevant, even if you are leading a spiritual life, because these are very deeply ingrained in us. And so it is important for us to have clarity. I'm sorry. It's very important for us to have clarity about the patterns that are playing inside of me. And then I was thinking, I think that the people who are on these calls, that are on these Zoom links, or that are in the company of those of us who are here, are actually looking for what I would call pure guidance. Because people who live a spiritual life, or who feel appealed by living a spiritual life, basically would like to find a path towards betterment, towards spiritual achievement, towards feeling complete, feeling good in themselves. So I think that I've called this pure guidance because we have to be able to distinguish with our own intellect what is it that I am keeping as company inside me. You know, we have to be really honest and attentive about it. So the first pure company I was remembering, of course, is our pure inner self. And this is one of the very, very beautiful teachings of Raj Yoga, that, you know, each person, each individual is actually a soul. It's a very small world, soul, but it's immense because the soul is eternal and this soul is unlimited. So when I start understanding that this is what I am, I can also access inside of me this kind of self-awareness. And making sure, we were talking about karma earlier on, what is it that moves me, and in which level of consciousness am I moving? Because this will have very different implications also. Secondly, I think it is very important when one wants to experience pure guidance to understand the benefit of meditation. Because when we are spending time with our own selves, meditation, when we are remembering this pure essence, that's also meditation. When we are remembering that, as Brother Manoj was saying earlier, we are love. But not just remember we are love, but we start experiencing that, yes, this is what I am. Then this experience has a very important impact on the self. And it is ever so beneficial, because it is like, I think it's, if you compare it with water, for instance, your body is made of 90% of water. So water is so essential for your bodily health, for your bodily survival. Likewise, the spiritual being that we are is actually made of very pure spiritual essence. It is made of love, it is made of peace, it is made of beauty, it is made of bliss. It is such an amazing reality that is embedded inside each of us. So meditation is the way to make it come alive in my awareness. And when it becomes real and experienced, it makes such a difference. It is just so beneficial for the self. So in some way, I was calling it meditation, and I shared many examples and many things that meditation is. But one other way to say it is spending time with the pure self that I am. Then one of the very important thing in Raj Yoga, as you are maybe, I'm sure, aware of, Raja means king. So one very important pure guidance is the guidance of self-sovereignty. There is this part of me that I am that is actually the king of everything else about me. The body, the relationships, the past, the present, the future, the connections, the interactions, the whole karma. So it's really a multiple impact. So sometimes our best teacher says you have to sit on your seat of self-sovereignty. So this means I have to be aware that this is who I am, this is what I am, and this is how I am. And this requires conscious, we sometimes call it effort, but you could also say conscious attention, conscious honesty, conscious presence to yourself. And in a sense, self-sovereignty means we have the choice also. So we need to choose being the self-sovereign. So what's happening is that that's where the honesty is very important, because if I am not awake and aware and attentive, I can very well slip into the old habits that I was talking about in the first part of my conversation with you. And so then if you slide back into being governed by the relationship you have with people, with your own thoughts, then you can't be a self-sovereign any longer. And so you're losing out on exercising self-sovereignty and acquiring the position and all the different benefits that you could be experiencing. Another point that I thought was really important is the importance of the pure spiritual knowledge, the importance of the pure, real information, you could say, or you could also speak of the pure wisdom. Because if I keep that in my intellect awake, what will happen is that I will realize and I will be able to make the shift. I will see and I will be able to change. So, and I think the knowledge or the spiritual wisdom is also like, when you're drawing, you're drawing and you have, when you're a child, they give you these paintings that are already drawn and you just need to color. So in a sense, if you are accepting to take a spiritual guidance of knowledge and wisdom, you can be focusing on the colors you want to put. But if you feel the page is blank, it's also a great feeling. But in a sense, you will start wondering, oh, what do I do? How do I do it? What do I add? What do I add? Should I paint this way? Should I paint that way? So it's a whole different kind of activity. But when you feel that everything is clear, you just have to add the color of your company, the color of your virtues, the color of silence, the color of love, the color. And it's a beautiful thing to experience. So I need to guide myself into bringing benefit. This is the best, highest guidance. One of the names for God is Shiva, and one of the meaning is Shiva is benefactor. I think that when we are in an awareness where we only want the best for everyone around us, for Mother Nature, for other people, for the planet, for the future, you are in such a benevolent stage. And I think wisdom is the guide to make that happen. Then the other thing I was thinking about, of course, is the best guide of all is the purest guide of all. And the Supreme Soul is who is the purest of all. And this is also something that requires wisdom, because many people love God so much, they put him everywhere. Many people are in the West, for instance, so afraid of God that they don't want to face God because they're afraid that he might judge them and condemn them. So the whole concept of God is quite important. It's essential, but it's also essential to really be able to understand this very pure, positive, loving, and benevolent nature. So, and I find that the soul is ever, 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 ever pure. So it means that there is no corruption, there is no darkness, there is no doubts. And the more I am able to feel that I am in a space where I can experience this beautiful being, then I can also, by contagion, it's
Par
like
contagion.
तो मैं contagious भी हो सकती हूँ, like हमें मेरे से.
Contagious means that
Contagieux. Cela veut dire que
catch a cold.
si vous avez un rhume, par exemple, l'autre peut l'attraper.
Mais on t'entend en français là. Je sais pas ce qui
Estou
s'est
agora a
passé.
ouvir várias traduções ao mesmo tempo, em simultâneo.
Brother Manoj, I think all the
Yeah.
translations coming on.
I'm so sorry. There is some technical problem, I think, because
So
all the translators are heard suddenly.
shall we stop for a moment to
Yeah,
reflect?
I think we'll just
And
stop
in the
for a
meantime-
moment. Yeah. Sister Anu, are you there? You want to just see what's the...
Yeah, I'm just checking, so it'll be okay right now.
Tens em hindi e inglês?
Okay. It should work now. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, you can carry on. Sorry.
It's fine. It's no problem. I'm often a translator, so I really feel for my brothers and sisters who are translating. So, merci beaucoup. Muito obrigado. Muchas gracias for your work. So, okay. For me, when you cannot think about the topic of guidance without thinking of God as the guide, God as the supreme guru. And of course, I mean, now that I'm saying guru, it's a word that's a Hindi word. Maybe it's something I should have spoken about at the beginning, but maybe we'll come back on it later. So God is completely pure. So what does that mean? For me, it means that he's like an ocean, endless ocean of love. But not only is the soul a complete ocean of love, but I can experience this absolute, continuous, unending, wonderful love. But also the love that I experience in God when I'm sitting contemplating in meditation, the love that is there, it will awaken in me and re-strengthen in me, empower in me my own power of love. So that's what I was saying just before we started having our languages. It's contagious because it's completely, it's a complete connection. You know, how could I tell you that the image that comes to me is that, you know, if you are with a being that is so loving and you're experiencing this love, your heart becomes full and you are becoming aware of your own nature of love. And it just is flowing out of you completely naturally, at least for the time of the meditation. And so this nature of God is an amazing nature. So meditation in that sense means exposing myself to the different virtues of God, of the Supreme Soul, and really letting this energy penetrate me. And the amazing reality of this completely pure energy is that it will also cleanse you. It's a purifying energy, like fire. You know, you whatever has to be burnt in that connection, through that connection, will be burnt away. So this is really something so essential, to be exposing myself to his pure, pure presence. And there are many attributes or virtues you can think about. The essential ones for me are purity, of course, love, light, absolute peace. There's not a corner, there's not a single thought in God's mind that's not peaceful. And again, as a human being, we are constantly exposed to peacelessness. We are constantly exposed to limits. So meeting you only one being that's unlimited is something that is so healthy and so empowering. One other quality that I find essential is beauty. God is ever beautiful, ever beautiful. And this quality of beauty also allows you to be so grateful and to allow beauty to become like your main dharma, your main principle when you go into action and relationships afterwards. And then earlier on, I was speaking about, how the company of my thoughts guide me. And they're constantly there, and they're almost invisible. We think about 60,000 to 100,000 thoughts a day. So you can imagine the quantity of thoughts that you have in just a minute is amazing. But when you learn the art of meditating, you enter a realm where the level of your thoughts become so healthy, so pure, so much of a good quality, so much of truthful. And this is something that is really not only enjoyable, but such a deep, deep learning for the soul. And then one of the things that is important is that we are beings that need company, some more than others, but I think those people who have very close connection with the Supreme Being have the capacity of having their inner conversation, because that's one of the things that is happening with us human beings. Even if we're not in this pure guidance, we are keeping a constant conversation. We are really chatterboxes, talking to ourselves, to the color of the clothes this person is wearing, the time it is now. It's like we are constant actors. And learning to keep the company of such a pure being makes whatever is not pure quality irrelevant. So if it has become irrelevant, you're not going to talk about it, with this being. So having the art of keeping company, the company of this most beautiful soul, means that your standards, your inner standards of conversations are also going to rise to a level of purity and depth that is unique. So this natural company allows you very naturally to go beyond the influence of all things that you have been experiencing as a person who's been suffering, who's been in turmoil, who's been exposed to negativity, to injustice. All these things are like gravitation. They pull you back and they pull you down. But the more you learn the art of experiencing this beautiful energy and have and keep this beautiful company, the more it will help you lift yourself up from the pain of doubting, from the pain of lack of self-esteem. Naturally you will be first able to identify it, so to have awareness of what's happening. And then you'll also be able to create inside of you spaces of no shadow, spaces of light. And also, one of the important things to consider is that one of the great quality of the Supreme Soul is that he is karmatit, meaning we are people of karma. We've accomplished many actions. We've been brought up in a world of action. And we have accomplished many actions that were quite limited or quite not so positive, that were the result of bad habits, of limited education. But when you start having this connection with the Supreme Soul, this soul is completely karmatic. So having never been exposed to this, you naturally in your conversations will not have him exposed to it. I'll give you an example. If you're talking with a little child, you're not going to talk about the complexity of economic difficulties that you have in your life, because the little child is completely beyond that. You will have no understanding about this. Equally, if you talk, like I speak very little Hindi, so forget about me speaking to you in Hindi about the complexity of the UN and climate change, because I don't have the language. I just don't have the language. So I will not be able to go there. But equally, if I'm talking with someone who doesn't have that knowledge, even in French or English, which are natural languages to me, I will not be able to, I will naturally keep it as deep and at the same time simple language as I can. So likewise, if you talk with the Supreme Soul naturally and constantly, you will learn the art of thinking and speaking positively. And not positively like the glass is half full, or oh, you should never say bad words. No, positively in the sense that you will look for the outcome, you look for the solution, you look for the way out, you look for the learning process in whatever happens. And then also I find one very important thing that the company of the Supreme Soul gives you in terms of guidance is that this soul naturally lives in a space of silence, in a space of light. We in the Brahma Kumaris often call this realm Paramdam, or the soul world, or the world of silence, Nirvana, beyond sound. So having the possibility of going beyond sound brings memories that are deeply ingrained in the soul and that are regional to the soul, which are the memories of my inner stage of silence. And this is so important because this is something all souls share. You know, we are all different and we are all equal. This is a paradox, a very sweet one. But in terms of experiencing the soul world, the nirvana, we are all equal. We were all being exposed to this, our home. And so I think that it is so important to the gift of the company of God. And then one of the other things that I find is that, you know, the guide is the guru. The kind of guidance the Supreme Soul gives is very, very sweet, very, very respectful. And it is not something that's going to be overpowering you. And that's also the very important contrast with human gurus. Human gurus have a tendency to impress, have a tendency to make you feel less, to, sorry, somebody's trying to call me, I'm going to just hang up. So I think that this is also something wonderful that we can learn from the Supreme Soul, the art of actually being with the most beautiful soul of all. So I don't know how you want to do this, Brother Manoj. Do you want us to have some meditation now? And do you want us to have a bit of question and answer? Or would you like me to press the button and go on talking for a little while longer?
Yeah, so that's fine. Your time is up, actually. Sorry. I mean,
Okay.
the sense, yeah. So we'll take a few questions, just a couple of them, and then we'll go in the meditation mode at the end. Yeah, so a question was about when you go to the climate change conferences and even at Geneva, the UN, where you represent the Brahma Kumaris. So you go to an audience which is totally Western, very scientific minded. So how do you guide them to enter into spirituality, and how do you explain them the connection of that, how the internal turmoil which is created in the human being is directly responsible for the external turmoil outside? So can you just elaborate that? How do you guide?
Thank you for this very interesting question. First, you know, when you are at the UN, you're not supposed to convert anyone, right? So what's important is create very good relationships so that you can have deep conversations. So when you have deep conversations, you can actually then have deep exchanges of and share, and people want to hear what you think. Otherwise, at the UN, we also are organizing talks within the UN. We have the possibility of organizing what they call side events. And in these side events, you are encouraged to actually also invite other people from other organizations You don't give talks like we did just now, you know, one person sitting for 45 minutes just talking. And the UN, they think always in terms of expertise. So what expertise are you bringing? And in a sense, having knowledge is an expertise, but you have to share how this impacts. So for instance, I tell the story of yogic farming. I've also worked a lot trying to bring all the different religions working on climate change together. So then we can have very deep and colorful side events where we bring the different faiths together to share the impact of consciousness, lifestyle, habits onto the planet. And the UN is a place where everybody is very, very busy. So one of the work that is that we do is called advocacy. And to do advocacy, you also need to find ways to think deeply about the agenda of the UN, the agenda of the climate change, the political agenda. And you have to think how this is connected with spirituality and bring it together. So you really need to do homeworks to do that. You need to do your thinking homeworks with Baba. Did I answer your question, brother? Manoj?
Yes, perfect. Yes, yes, you did answer the question. Thank you. So I'll just take the last question in the interest of time. A person is asking in the chat box that he has started meditation of late, maybe a few months. And the moment he sits to meditate, his thoughts, I mean, they just go wandering. So I am really fed up of this, and I just get up and start doing something else because my mind wanders more when I sit to meditate. So how do you guide him for a spiritual lifestyle?
Well, thank you for this very sincere question. I think that if you want to meditate, is because you know it's good for you, right? And so you're getting frustrated because it's not that simple. You can't press on the button and then boom, meditation. So what you could do is prepare your meditations. It's like before you meditate, start thinking, why do I want to meditate? What would I want to obtain? Do I want to experience peace? Do I want to give peace? Do I want to experience the beauty of God? Do I want to understand my own self? So in that sense, you start the dialogue. Because as I was saying, we are having constant conversation, and your conversation seems to be, I don't like trying to meditate and my thoughts don't obey. So you go into the wrong track, because if the further you go into that track, the more frustrated and the more difficult it is going to be. So reverse, go back within, say, I really want to experience this, this and that, obtain this, understand this. So in that way, you're starting to tune in your mind in the right way and your heart in the right way. And so it will be easier, in my experience, to fly, to go there. And if you need to go make yourself coffee or a tea, do that.
Sure. Thank you. Very practical tips to make your meditation powerful. Thanks a lot. And now I would request, so our time is going fast. I'll request our seniors who are there with us, Dr. Ashok Mehta and Sister Claudia, to propose the vote of thanks. Over to you both.
Didn't you want a meditation?
Yeah, sorry. So we'll have it at the end after they propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sister Valeriane. I have not had the privilege to meet you, but I enjoyed listening to your beautiful views on guidance, and especially the guidance from the Supreme. I think all of us are guided by only one, and that's the ultimate. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. We really enjoyed listening to your deeply, I would say, deeply thought about concepts of the guidance from the Supreme. Thank you very much. Very kind of you.
Very
Om
much,
Shanti.
Ashwani.
Om Shanti. Good morning, Valerie. So yes, also I did not meet you, that I met you in Madhuban, but not personally. But it was a pleasure to hear you speaking today. And I think it was also very nice to, when you explain about your work at UN, I like to thank you for representing us over there. And it's a very, I would say, not easy work. You have to be very careful what you are saying, doing. So I just like to thank you for being there for us. But also, I think that early morning hours, and we can get some guidance very easy from the Supreme Soul. That's why the very early morning hours is so important in our life. So when we start learning how to meditate and give ourselves to that early morning hours, always guidance comes from, and it's usually is very straightforward, and it's help us so much in our life. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for all your guidance and points. So see you again.
Thank you very much, Claudia.
Thank you, both of you. And before we jump into the meditation with Sister Valeriane, let me just quickly do the announcements first. And Sister Anu, be ready for the photograph. As all of you know, we have been speaking a lot about the Guru. So we have these 4 relationships which I want you all to explore. We have actually covered the 3. I mean, we should be actually very honest with the Guru. Honesty is done. With the teacher, we should be disciplined. That has been covered already. With the Father, the Supreme Father, we should be obedient. We've already done that. And one remains is loyalty. So that's the next one. So loyalty usually is with the companion. We say the Sajan, the companion or the consort. So in Hindi, we also say Wafadari. Rather in Urdu, it's Wafadari. And we have a beautiful conversation with our 2 senior Rajogis. That's the next on the list, next weekend, Saturday. Sister Judy Johnson and Brother Bill Simo. Both of them shall be speaking on loyalty. And as always, the next, after that, the workshop, we have another new speaker with us, Sister Carolyn Fraud from Germany. Again, it will be on Saturday, 26th August, and we'll be sending you all the invitations soon. And as always, the next value, as I said, is on loyalty. And we usually complete the month, the last Sunday of the month. We'll be having the silence retreat as always on loyalty. And again, we are very pleased that it's the month of our senior Dadi Prakashmani, who had left the body on 25th of August. So it coincides very much with that. And today's episode, also today's workshop, sorry, also is dedicated to her. She was Dadi Kumarka. Kumarka in the sense youth, a youthful soul she was at heart, and that's the reason her name was that. So this is the elegant calendar. We'll be sending you soon. If there are new participants, I would want to remind you all to send your email addresses and WhatsApp numbers so that we can send you these details. And that's our websites and the emails. Feel free to reach out. And all these are recorded on YouTube. You can find them, the workshops on this, omshanti.tk/workshops, and the episodes on the playlist as mentioned. So with this, I'll just stop sharing the screen now. And before we go into the meditation mode, usually people have, Sister Valeriane, they have a request that they want to be photographed with the speaker. So we'll just take a photograph with you. And then
I just wanted to say also that when I was in India, one of the first time in 86, I met Dadi Kumarka and I spent quite a bit of time with her. And I understood that it was a name that was given to her with a lot of love because she was a woman, a girl when she started, but she always was like a boy also, you know, not to her gender, but into the position of being a full heir was all right. So I just was remembering her when you said that. Thank you for reminding.
And yeah, and also because today is 12th August is the International Youth Day. So we're having a lot of programs in India all over. It coincides with our workshop as well. The youth need guidance. So it coincides with that. And also Dadi's month. Yeah, so Sister Anu, over to you quickly for the photograph. Yeah.
Yes, everyone, please switch on your video. Still, if you are deciding, please, this is the time. This is the time. More cameras on? No? I got it. Thank you so much.
So we'll now go in the meditation mode and we'll just take silence. So you want some meditation music?
I
to be
like
played,
silence.
Sister?
Thank you very
Okay,
much,
that's
Melissa. So I would like to invite all of you to sit comfortably and breathe in the very beautiful air that Mother Nature is creating for us. This is nectar in our bodies and lungs alive. And I feel so grateful. And now I become aware of the spirit that I am. This beautiful, sparkling light, a spark of awareness, unlimited and eternal. And I feel again so grateful for this incredible power and beauty and love that there is inside, embedded in my potential. It is always there. And in silence, I can allow this potential to come alive, to flourish. And my heart feels comfortable and happy about the experience and knowledge of who I am. And now in silence, this beautiful being that I am aware I am in potential directs her glance towards the Supreme Soul, the ever beautiful one, the ever generous, loving, peaceful one. And I open myself to the experience of this extremely pure, warm, and embracing ocean of love and life. I am flowing in this ocean. I am being embraced by the rays of love. Embraced by the most beautiful being. And my heart is dancing. I feel that the quality of being a loving, constantly loving soul is becoming awake and natural in this moment. I am the companion of the most beautiful one. And my beauty is awakened. And whenever I want, I can go back to this amazing love of mine and spread this rays of love onto the trees and the leaves, the flowers and the fruits, the water, the rivers and the ocean, the birds. And I can feel this brushing paintbrush that God has given me, stroking the souls of my brothers and sisters, allowing them to be cleansed, pure, and free in their mind, even if only for a Om Shanti.
Thank you so much once again, Sister Valeriane, and also immense gratitude to all the facilitators, translators, and the recorders, and of course, all the online participants, without which the workshop wouldn't be possible. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for your attention, and thanks a lot for the invitation and this beautiful program to all the souls that make it possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.